everyone, in this video I'm going to be showing you a haul of the items that I got from AliExpress, and it's a huge stamp haul. So I'm going to be showing each one of the stamps and then I'll be stamping them out onto a piece of paper and showing you how it looks. I'm doing this as a voiceover right now because I was talking about this when I was unwrapping, as you can see, but all the plastic made a ton of noise and you couldn't really hear what I was saying. What I was saying back then was just telling you about my experience with AliExpress. It took less than 4 weeks to get to me, and it was shipping from China. I noticed that there was actually a tracking number that I could track the package as it moved through China. But once it left China and toward my country, then the tracking stopped. Once it got to my country, it actually took about 5 days before it came to my mailbox. So this is a pretty heavy package. There's a lot of stamps. I decided to buy them all at once because I didn't want to have to worry about the long wait times, and I just figured if they're good, they're good, and if they're bad, they're bad, and I don't want to have to keep on buying more and more stamps. And the main reason why I wanted to buy all of these stamps in the first place is to use them in my journal. In terms of my journaling style, I normally just write. I just fill up a page with writing. Sometimes I'll add a bit of background watercolor as just to give some color, but I wanted to be able to experiment and add a little bit of borders with these stamps and add something that looks visually interesting, as opposed to using, let's say, a sticker. Not that I don't like stickers, but then stickers, you put them in your journal and then they're there permanently and you can't reuse them. Whereas with stamps, you can use them over and over as long as you have ink to use them. Now back to the video. So this first one here is wooden stamps and it's got 10 pieces. I did not know that it would be 10 pieces. Or did I? So let's see what it looks like underneath. Okay, that'll be fun. I'm going to try and test one out on camera if I can. Okay, these are flowers. You could order them individually, and then I just picked a couple that I liked. I do not remember picking so many, but there you go. Alright, so here are the 4 plant flower stamps that I got. Sorry, that's 5, I can't count. And by the way, each of these actually have 2 stamps. So let me take it out. You can see this is one design, and then you flip it over and then there's a second design. Oh, I see. So they also have the picture of the stamp on the side of the stamp here too. This does not look very detailed. It may not work. It kind of just looks like a slab of chocolate. See, this one has a little bit more detail. So again, here are the 2 stamps. Also, I think this one does not have enough detail. You're barely going to be able to see it. I mean, I'll have to try it with ink to see whether those little petals show up. You can even see here, compared to this printing and the printing on the stamp, you can barely see the details, especially the smaller ones. Same here. See, these don't even look the same. They're not the same. This looks like 2 hanging plants, and this looks like 1 plant. Let's see if the stamp is the same. Okay, you see, this stamp here is the same as this, but this doesn't match. I'll be honest, I don't really recognize most of these flowers except for this, which I think is a dandelion. So here you go. The dandelion's here. And then the back. So these next 4 stamps here are what I call background stamps, because what I'm going to do with them is stamp them on my pages, my journal entries as the background, just to give a little bit of decoration. This is a row of waves. These are some stars. These are just diagonal lines, and these are something like shooting stars. Next up, I have these 3 stamps here, and this is the biggest one. It's just 1 stamp, and it's kind of one of those optical illusion shapes. So I don't think this type of shapes exists in real life, and I kind of like the look of it. This will just be a random icon in my entries, but I thought it was interesting to try. Next up, we have 2 of these little boxes here, and they come in sets of 3. These are, I'm probably going to use something as bullet points. But even if I don't use it as bullet points, I could kind of line it up and make a little pattern. So these 3 are hexagonal icons. Similarly with this one, these are triangles. So these stamps are meant to be 1 cm by 1 cm. And I've noticed that the stamp inside doesn't seem to be centered on inside the square. It's kind of on the way I've lined it up is they're all on the bottom right. Let's see if I turn it like this. Then they're all on the bottom right. This one is a little bit closer to the center, the dead center of each of the squares, but that's going to be a little bit difficult in aligning them properly because they're not in the center. Next, we have these 3 stamps here. I don't remember what they are, so I'm going to open them and then we can take a look. Alright, here they are opened up. I have to say they were pretty well packaged. It was really hard to open them because the glue was quite strong. And I was hoping to keep the paper because I thought, hey, this wrapping is quite nice. Maybe I could cut it out and use some of it. As you can see, I just kind of gave up and just used force and ripped the packaging open. But maybe I can salvage some of it. So these are 3 more background stamps. These are some birds flying. And some of the birds are kind of colored in and some of them are just an outline of birds. This one is of trees, and there's 2 different little trees and then these very small birds flying in between them. And lastly, it's just the wood that's kind of hard to see, especially against this background, but they're just stars, so different shaped stars. Here we get to my last stamp set, and it's the biggest one. There are 56 pieces. And these are going to be little icons that I'm hoping to use on my bullet journal. So let's open it up more easily. So I'm going to bring it up closer to the camera. I'm not going to show all of them individually, but they're just some basic icons I think that are cute, which you can use I'm going to use in my bullet journal. There's, a flower, there's an arrow, there's a sun, a checkbox, an arrow, there's a registered trademark sign, a moon, a star, so on. So I thought those were interesting. Here's a close-up of 2 of them. It's just 2 random ones I picked up. They're also 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, and I've noticed again that they're not quite lined up in the center. We'll see how easy it is to stamp it when it's like this. Okay, hello. It's now a couple of days later, and I finally had a chance to sit down and try to swatch these inks. I'm mainly doing this for myself so that I can see what I bought and be able to reference it when I'm journaling. This is the tray of where I'm holding all of these stamps. You can see that there is a lot. Earlier I started filming, but I noticed that the camera was shaking too much, so I'm going to redo that part again. I started with these stamps down here, and I've already taken the stamps out of their packaging. For the paper, I'm just using a Fabriano paper. It's just a dot grid paper, and I'm only using this because it's in the A5 size already. It actually comes from this notebook, and I just tear out each page as I use them. What I'm going to do is, after I stamp it, I'm going to hole punch it and put it inside my A5 ring binder. In terms of the ink, I'm just going to be using this VersaFine ink in black, and I may try to use some of the Tombow brush markers. I did try it already in my journal and it turned out fine, so I'll show you that as well later. You can see that there's already ink on the stamp. That's because I was filming earlier and okay, so now I've done all the stamping. As you can tell, it's just for me. I wasn't trying to make it perfect. I'll go through some of my thoughts on each one of these. I think in terms of these stamps, they're the two-sided stamps. Each one of the darker ones, they're a little bit faded. You can see that there's some white spots here where it's supposed to be black. And same here and here. and it makes it harder to see the white part of the image, which is where the stamp is. So I like the ones on the left the most, and these ones I probably would use less, or if I was using something that wasn't black perhaps, then it would maybe look better. This one is my favorite one in that it stands out like this. On this page I like all of these stamps. I did mess up a little bit here. I did it twice because in the middle the ink didn't pick up, and when I did it the second time it still didn't pick up, but that's okay. I know what's there. And then of course, since I had to do this twice, this one got shifted down to the bottom like this. This one I was pretty impressed by. I like there's a lot of detail showing, and I like all of the different mountains, although I do think it's a little bit redundant, all of these. Some of them might look the same to me. For this one I followed the pattern of how the stamps were laid out inside the box, and this one ended up being the wrong way around, so I stamped it again here just to show it's actually a vertical stamp, and that's how it's meant to look. And lastly, because at this point I was just tired of stamping and I did get interrupted, I had to hurry. So this one is probably the messiest one. You can see when I'm stamping, the ink shows up on the edges like this. Is that more accurate? Yeah. And that's because I was probably just pressing on the ink pad too hard. If I was doing this and I was trying to be more careful, then I would have to take a piece of tissue and wipe that off before I stamped. And since there are like 56 of these here, I just didn't want to do that. This one is probably the most disappointing in that it's a hexagon, and it's meant to be a striped hexagon. So it's meant to show these little stripes, but it looks the same as this one, which is just a regular hexagon like this. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up, and then I'm going to try color it in the stamp with a Tombow marker and then show you how it looks. Okay, so this is what it looks like when I'm using the Tombow brush marker. This one is in the color, or the number of this brush is 493. So there you go, you can still see a lot of the details. This was my first stamp, and then without coloring it in again and adding more ink, I got this, and it's a little bit lighter, but you can still see all of the details. So it does take a while to color each one of these things in, but when you do and you stamp it, then I quite like the effect. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching me stamp. There is a ton of stamps now that I have to wash and clean up, but I did enjoy doing it, and now I'm glad I have this as a reference material for the next time I stamp in my journal. Alright, thank you very much for watching.